Hello there, it's Jan from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me on the channel today. And I'm back with a little bit more inspiration for you today, all about sort of those prompts for crafting. We all have days where we sit here and think, what am I going to make today? Unless you've got a particular occasion that you're wanting something for, like I've just made a new house card. My daughter's just moved house, so that was, I knew what I wanted to do for that. But if you just sit down, and it happens to me sometimes, I sit here and I think, right, what am I going to make today? These are just ideas for, having a look through your stash, picking some things out and popping it together to make either a card design, a scrapbook layout, journal page, anything like that. So we've done a couple of these before. I've called it the Take 5 challenge, where we take 5 items and we make a card or a project with it. Now I have changed it slightly today because I did my card and I hadn't used a stamped image today. So these again are only thought starters. It doesn't have to be a set pattern. The last two that I did actually fit these 5 items, but I've still got my 5 things in there. So for my background today, I've used some pattern paper, again out the scrap box. So it's a scrap buster one as well. I've used some little nesting circle dies to create the, I've called it a square aperture circles. I know that sounds a bit weird, but you'll see what I mean when I show you the card. And instead of a stamped image, I've used some twine, which is another element that I've used. The one that I'm going to make today, I'm going to substitute the twine for ribbon, just to give you some different ideas. My embellishments flowers. Sentiment was a just because. I like making those kinds of cards. They come in handy for any occasion. If you just want to send somebody, just a note to say that you're thinking about them, just because. And then, as always, gems and insert are nearly always my finishing touches. So let me show you what I made. And this was inspired by a picture that I saw on Pinterest. I'm forever scrolling Pinterest for ideas. I've got like probably lots of you have, tons of created ideas board, and I do go through those as well for inspiration occasionally. But this is one that I saw something similar to. I've just adapted it for my own purpose. But the idea of the apertures in the back was what I thought, actually, I really like that, and it's so simple to do. So this is what I've made, and this is hence why it's called a square. It's a 5 3/4 square, which is the largest pretty much that we can get out of our A4 here in the UK. It's got apertures in, and the apertures are circles, which is where this strange square aperture circles came from. It sounds odd until you see the design. So I've got my pattern paper behind the apertures here, so that's going to be my background, and I've got a different paper today. I've used a different scrap. The nesting circles to create the design here. I've used some twine. I'm always talking about the vertical and the crossing it. It's just, to me, it's just a design feature that I like. If I've got something that works vertically, I do like to have that horizontal element in, and it lined up nicely to add my sentiment in there as well. So yeah, we've got the twine crossing it. Lots and lots of little die cut flowers. I've got a die that cuts out just flowers, and I'll show you those when we do the video, do the tutorial. And then just because is my sentiment, and then I've added all my flower centers. I've got little pearl accents in, and then I added just some little sparkly clear gems just to catch the light there. And as always, I've usually got an insert in there. So again, I've kept that sort of circle theme from the front. I've used a little bit of the scrap paper that was left, and then stamp my sentiment, and that's just going to be the inside today. I'm not going to do any more than that. So it just links it together with the colours, the pattern paper, and the circles there, linking it back to the front of the card. So that's the design that we're going to recreate with a different pattern paper. It's not quite as bold a colour on this one. So again, you'll get a couple of options as to how it looks. So we'll pop that one to one side. We'll keep this one handy so that we can keep checking in on the elements. And the first thing that I've got is my card blank. This has actually been cut from a piece of A4 cardstock. So it measures 11.5 by 5 3/4, and I've just scored it down the centre to make my own card blank today. And as I say, this is about the largest we can get. You could go to 5 7/8, but I like the the even sort of numbers with the 3/4 of an inch. It gets a bit tricky sometimes sometimes you have to use the 1/8 and the 16th of an inch, but I like to try and keep it, you know, in better measurements. So that's going to be my card blank. And then I've prepared the one that's going to go in the background. So I've just got another piece here that is 5.5 inches square. And this, again, you know, I've had a couple of people say, oh, you know, it would look nice with a matte layer behind, Jan. And it would absolutely. If you want to add, you know, pick your focal colour and add a matte layer behind here, absolutely. So I would make the matte layer at 5.5 and then maybe just come down 1/8 of an inch to do this white layer. But I'm really liking this clean look at the minute, and it isn't my usual style. I do normally throw everything but the kitchen sink at cards, but I seem to be doing more and more of this where it's got this really nice clean edge. It's set away from the background with the twine here. Whereas this one I've used a little piece of ribbon. I thought we'd go for the ribbon this time, and I've stamped my sentiment in ready, and I'm actually going to adhere this flat to the back of the card. So we'll pop that on. I've got some tape on the back ready, so that should be relatively easy to pop together. And again, you know, tricks for doing this, you've seen me do this before. I've just taken off one piece of the tape, which is the sticky bit under my thumb here, and then I'm going to line it up with the side that's not had the liner removed, so that I can get it positioned on my card. And then once I'm happy with that position, I will stick the side down that I've released the paper. Because the tape can grab really quickly, this is a nice easy way to do it and ensure that you get everything nice and straight. Some of that, oh, I'm going to say that sounded as if it had torn then. There we go. Take the rest of your paper, your release paper off then, and you know then that that's going to sit down nice and straight. So that's my background sorted. Again, you know, lots of different ways to do this. As I say, if you want to add a matte layer and lift it up that little bit, absolutely fine. So we're going to pop that to one side and we're going to work on this top panel next. So I'm just going to pop that one up there for a second. And I have got a couple of pieces now that we're going to work with, and this is my pattern paper for this one. It's nowhere near as bold as this one, so you know, if you prefer something that's a little bit more delicate, less sort of you know, sort of saturation of colour, it depends what scraps you've got in your box. I was just looking through and picked out something. This one came out quite easy. I thought, do you know what, it'll look just as nice with a bit more pattern behind it. This one's more of a solid design on this one. So 2 pieces that are going to become the front, and this is 5.25 inches tall by 3 1/4, and I've done that to fit my card here. So I've just left a little tiny bit, a little bit of a border, and I know it's hard to see on the white, but I've just got like about 1/8 of an inch top and bottom. So again, depending on what size card you make would depend on your panel, and I wanted to leave enough room for my sentiment at the side there. And then I've cut this one just a fraction. I've gone down 1/8 of an inch, so that when this is stuck behind, I'll do it this way so that you can see, it's not all the way to the edge. So you know that this is not going to be seen over the edge. It will be done this way behind the aperture when we've cut the little apertures in, but just cutting it that little bit smaller instead of the same size allows it to disappear into the background. So we need to do a little bit of die cutting on this one, and I'm just going to bring out my my set here. And I chose, I've got a massive, you know, I bought these a while ago and I haven't regretted it one bit. They were Creative Craft products, which were Craft Stash's brand, I believe. I hadn't got any plain circles. I've got lots of stitch circles, but sometimes you just want that plain circle. And I bought this set, and you know, I've used it and used it and used it. There's a little tiny baby one in the middle, and then it goes up to I think the largest one in there, let's have a little look, the largest circle in there, which is big enough to make a circular card with, is like 7 3/4 inches, and then that little diddy one is just 1/2 an inch, so they come in really handy. So yeah, it was a purchase. I sort of treated myself to them and thought, right, let's get them used. So all I've done is I've chosen 3. I'm going to repeat one of them. So we need some tape. I'm going to get some double-sided tape, not double-sided tape, Jan, low tack tape here. I'm just going to take some pieces off there at the ready. And we will need to pop this through the machine twice because I'm going to repeat the middle size circle. So I'm going to lay these roughly where I want them to be. Let's just move that. I'll come back to these ones in a second. And I want to create sort of from the top here like a cascade of the apertures, and I want to leave space to repeat this one nearer the bottom. So we're going to go sort of about there, like so. I think that looks okay. So we're going to pop these. I maybe didn't need all the tape, but we're just going to pop these down carefully with a little bit of tape, and then I'm going to pass these through my die cutting machine. So as a lot of you know, that just sits behind me on the set of drawers that I have that run across the back of my craft room. So I've got my very well loved plates at the minute. They're almost getting ready for changing. And a couple of you commented on this. This is my combination for my Gemini. I've got my original Gemini machine that I bought when I started working for Crafters Companion, which will be, my goodness, 9 years ago. And it's still a very, very keen machine. So the combination that it recommends in the book includes a plastic shim. Mine is actually one of the double-sided. They bought out for the double-sided dies, and it's slightly thinner than the plastic one. And if I'm just cutting normal dies, this is enough in my machine. So, you know, if you do have issues with, if you use the Gemini machine and it's a little bit keen, just think about your plate combination. The book is only a guideline. A couple of people have said to me, oh, you've got the wrong combination of plates, Jan, but it's what works in my machine. If I've got a more intricate die, or if I'm cutting into something like glitter card, I'll swap it out for the other shim that's a bit thicker to add some pressure. But this works for me, so I'm going to pop those on here and then just pop round and pop that through my... Oh, there's a lot of popping going on today, Jan. Crikey. Pop. Here we go again. Pop it through the machine. It's going to be one of those days today. There we go. And then I need to pass this through a second time with that middle circle. So again, when you're taking the tape away, if you roll it back rather than tearing it off, it does less damage to the surface of the cardstock, because even though it's low tack, the pressure from the Gemini can create issues where it tears the card. So just roll it, look, and it comes off nicely. Like so. And then we're going to need that one again. Let me just pop my tape to one side there. We'll keep that bit. And then I'm going to reposition this one towards the bottom here. But I don't want them to be lined up. So I'm going to bring it quite out this way a little bit so that it's offset. Didn't want them to all be sort of in a queue kind of thing. So we'll pop that one on there. Pop it in. Turn that one round now. And then I'm just going to pass that a second time through the machine. You can hear that behind me. And then we've got our apertures ready to go. So if I bring that back, you can see now we've got that little piece ready. So again, I'm just going to do the same again and just gently roll it, and it doesn't snag. My card's still intact. And then I've got a set of little circles that I could use for something else. I'm just going to get rid of that other piece of tape. So yeah, these will go into probably into my little sentiment stash, because these will be great to stamp little sentiments on. So they'll go into the scrap stash. I'll just pop them up there for now. And this is the piece that we're going to work on. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to put this behind it, and you can see we've got more of a pastel look here. But to create a little bit of dimension, I'm actually going to put some pop foam dots on here so that it lifts it just a fraction. And I've got these little circle ones, and we just want to make sure that the card's supported in all the different corners and the middle bits and things. So I'm just going to dot these around, literally, and we'll pop some in there. So that's the outside of it, pretty well supported. And I've got tons of these, so I'm not sometimes you get scared of using things in case you use them up, but I have got lots of these. I ordered a massive pack, and then I'm just going to put 1 or 2 in the middle to support that middle area as well. 1 there, and then what I tend to do is turn it over, and if you've got any bits, like there's a bit here that's sort of squishing into the middle, so I'm going to pop another one here, and I think that's probably okay now, because we've now got to take all the backs off those. So yeah, let's just get that. They should come off. Yeah, we're okay today. Take all the backs off. Sometimes they misbehave, especially when I'm on camera. I think they know what I'm trying to do and they just misbehave. Those of you that followed me on Crafters TV will know that I used to have a love-hate relationship with the foam pads, but these ones are really nice. You can see that's come off in seconds there. And then I'm going to leave it this way up because I know that this piece is slightly smaller. So all I'm going to do is just get that laid down just inside that main card. Give it a press, and it just creates that little bit of depth between the apertures and the background, just to give you sort of that little bit, tiny bit of shadow. Now again, you can pop this one straight onto the card, which I think I'm going to do today. This one I added another layer of foam tape in the back here, but again, I'm always talking about the differences between creating flat, you know, designs and ones that are more dimension. I love the dimension, I really do, but it depends on postage. Oops, don't knock that one. So if you're planning on posting something, it's often better to keep it flat. So what we're going to do with this one is just adhere it to the back of the card base. Those little pop dots that I use are only 1 millimeter thick, so they're not anything significant, but they do allow you to just create that bit of shadow. So we'll use a bit of the acrylic glue on there today. And then I want to get this one in position with the smallest circle at the top. I'm just going to hover over there until I'm happy with the layout. And I want to create about an equal distance here and then between the sentiment. So I think that looks okay. Give that a good press down. If you want to stick your piece of pattern paper down first and then pop the dots over the top, that's fine, that would work too. So you can see that's coming together nicely now. Then I've got my little pot of goodies. I've cut out lots of flowers, and that's where these 2 dies came in. These are what I was talking about at the beginning. These are go-tos. I've had these ages. This one is a Crafter's Companion die. I've got 2 of these so that I can cut multiples if I need to. This is one that I've had in my stash excuse me, quite a long time. I'm not sure where this one's from. There isn't a brand name on it. A lot of my shopping's done on Amazon. It may be one that I've picked up at a craft show, something like that. Had it a long time, but it cuts out multiple flowers, and then I've got a little pot that I keep all the spares in. So this one I cut out of the bit of the paper that was left, and I've created some little flowers that I've got pattern on. So you can see 1 or 2 of them. I've still got the patterned paper there. We've got, I think I used 4 of those, yeah. So 1, 2, no, I didn't use the biggest one. 1, 2, 3, and then the little diddy one. And then I cut this out of white card, and what I've done with that one is just ink the edges of the flowers with a little bit of pink. And I've got lots of different sizes. I wanted that real scattering. Look at these little tiny diddy baby ones. These out of here. So yeah, and they're just, and the single layers. I know people like lots of dimension on flowers and they layer them up, but I like them like this with just the single layers, and I think they look really, really pretty. I've put pearls in the center, and I've picked out colors that match the paper. So I've gone for this sort of pinky tone and then the peachy corally color. I've got a little bow to go on here, and I've got a little tiny butterfly. I think this is from a Tim Holtz die that we're going to pop up here. So a little bit of placement with the flowers. Now some of the flowers I have got the foam pads on the back. Some of them we're going to use the glue for. So I'm going to start with the bigger ones, and I've popped foam pads on the back of these. I've done a little bit of shaping with my shaping tool on a piece of foam. So if you can see the, oops, that was being friendly. You can see here, it's not flat. Yeah, so I've just done a bit of shaping on the petals. And this one, I'm going to start with this largest one. And again, there isn't really a right or wrong way, but I want this one to bridge the gap here between these two. So that one's going to go on like so. And I'm going to follow the design that I did on the other one. Then we need one of these. So some of them, as I say, I've got on foam pads. Thought it would be quicker, she says, trying to get the backs off them. Look, these are misbehaving again now, rather than popping glue on them all. All right, and then we're just going to create like a little tumbling cluster of these flowers. And then that other medium size one is going to go up at the top. Do you know, those others came off beautifully, and now we're back to being difficult again. This one's going to bridge the gap here, like so. And then I have got another one of the white ones. And again, I wanted to just create that effect that they're tumbling all the way down through those, not covering the circles completely, but just sort of cascading rather than, or tumbling, however you want to phrase it, across that pattern, linking the circles pretty much together. So that's another patterned one there. We'll get those in position first. And then some of them, I'm going to pop a dot of my acrylic glue on. The little tiny ones were too small for the pop dots that I use. So yeah, we're just going to go sort of around here. And I've got them overlapping slightly. Some above, some below. That's it. And then I want one of those up at the top. So we're going to just do a single one up here like so. I'm just going to the edge of the apertures. And then I'm going to bring this one down here. I've got the smallest one of the patterned ones left. So I'm going to bring that one here. And then I've got those two little tiny diddy ones. I just think they could have done with a slightly smaller pearl, but this is the smallest one I'd got in these colours, so we can live with it. And that glue's quite a quick grab glue, the Nouveau glue, so they do dry pretty quickly. And then this one is going to create that last bit of cluster up here. So I've tried to alternate the pearls. I've got that lovely bright pink to pick out this colour, and then I've got the corally colour, and then I've got a very pale pink. So yeah, I've gone sort of, you've got the dark one, the coral, the pink, the coral and the pink. I've tried to sort of not put two the same together, but that's just me and the good old OCD. Oh, we just still need that, don't we, for the butterfly. So I've got this one, as I say, I think this is from one of my Tim Holtz sets. The little tiny teeny butterflies, and it was just to link that sentiment here. I'm just going to pop this here. I wanted a little butterfly on it. Tried it here and it was too busy. I thought about popping it in the aperture, but then I decided it to land here because it's just drawing your eye across that sentiment. So let's move those out the way. We can get rid of the rubbish. That's all done with. And then I've just got my little bow left, which we're going to pop on here. So again, I'm going to put some of the acrylic glue on the back of there. You could use a glue dot here if you wish. I'm actually going to put my acrylic glue on there, and then I'm just going to use, once I've got it in the place I want it, I'm going to use my tweezers there and just leave that to dry. All right, so that it will just hold it in place there while it dries. If you've got the inverted tweezers, they're invaluable. And then we'll pop that one to one side. So you can see we've got that lovely cascade. I'm just going to pop that one to one side. So we've got a couple of subtle differences. Obviously, the paper's quite different. We've got that bold design versus the more sort of open pastel shades. So again, you know, let me know which you prefer. We often have this little chat at the end, and I like to do sort of different ones just to give you, you know, not everybody likes the bold colours. Some people prefer the pastel sort of, you know, more lighter colours. It depends what the occasion is. You know, this could be anything. This could be an inked panel. You know, we're talking about making backgrounds sometimes. You know, if you're not sure what to do, make some ink backgrounds. It could be an inked panel. It could be anything behind it. It could be a piece of fabric. It could be a piece of pattern vellum. That would look really pretty. So yeah, lots of different ways of doing this. But I quite like the, I don't know what the word is. I was going to say paleness, but that's not right because it's still got colour in it, but the less bold, whatever the word is for that. My brain's not working at this time in the morning. But yeah, I like the twine. Goes well with this one. But because this was softer, I think the ribbon looks nice. And then all I've done, as always, is just add a few of those little clear gems. I just wanted the gems in there. I know we've got flower centres, and if you want to leave it at that, that's fine. You know what I'm like with the gems. So again, I've just gone through the flowers, linked them together with those little clear gems, and then I pop one in the middle of the butterfly just again to link it. And then, like I said, my background, very simple. I've inked the edge with some pink to link it to the colour scheme. I've used a scrap of that paper that we used on the front and cut a circle, and then I've done my sentiment in another circle just to keep it all linked together. So the colour, the aperture, the circle, and then the additional sentiment. So just because, and it says, I appreciate you more than words can say. So a really nice one for a generic occasion. Didn't have to be a birthday. It might be that you just wanted to pop a note to somebody, and you know, you've got one there in the stash good to go. So I'm going to leave the tweezers on that one for now, so that we can let that dry. This is the one that we've just done. So let me know in the comments, which one do you prefer? You know, do you like that more bold pattern? Whoops, don't you go move there. Thank you. Anybody else talk to the crafting? I do. Shocking. And that is my design today for that Take 5 challenge. So our background was the pattern papers this time out of the scrap box. So we're scrap busting at the same time. The dies for this one were those pretty little nesting circle dies. And again, they don't have to be circles. This would look great with hexagon dies, squares. It could be a punch that you can get into there. So yeah, lots of different ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be a circle. I just like the idea of the flowers onto the circles. Changed out my stamped image for some twine on this one. It was ribbon on this one. And then the embellishments of the flowers, just because sentiment. And then I've decorated it just with finishing touches with the gems, and then my insert on the inside. So that's my Take 5 challenge for today. Little bit more inspiration for you. Let me know if you're going to have a go in the comments. I know some of you like to post. I have a Facebook page at JB Crafts as well, and some of you post your makes over there for me, which I love seeing people's take. You know, people will take what I've done and said, oh, I needed a masculine card today, Jan, or oh, I think this will make a great Christmas card. Yeah, and I know on that note, I know some people have started with Christmas, but oh crikey. When I worked for Crafters Companion, obviously it started Christmas in July, which is what we're in now. And it used to drive me crazy having all the Christmas stuff out at this time of year. You know, we're in the middle of a heat wave here in the UK at the minute. It's random. One day it's throwing it down with rain. We've got thunderstorms forecast for tomorrow. At the moment, we're in the middle of a heat wave. So yeah, having Christmas stuff out, it used to really irritate me. So I'd made a decision on the channel that I wasn't going to do Christmas in July. I've got lots of ideas that'll carry me through the year. And then as it gets towards the end of the year, last year I did a lot of Halloween projects because I love Halloween. And then we went into 12 days of Christmas, which were 2 cards a week for 6 weeks up to Christmas. So it still gives people plenty of time to make. But yeah, that's why I've not got the Christmas cards out yet. So good luck to those of you that are doing. I know there's lots of makers out there that are doing Christmas, and I admire them. I really do, but I just didn't want my stuff out yet. But yeah, if you want to turn it into Christmas cards, if you're at that point in your crafting, absolutely. You know, whatever you want to do. If you don't have circle aperture dies for this, you could just do some, draw around something and either cut it out, or you could just draw the circles onto your pattern paper and stick them on top. It doesn't have to be die cut into the panel. So again, lots of different ways of adapting it. Let me know how you get on if you're going to have a go with it. Give us a comment down there. If you've enjoyed it, consider giving it a thumbs up for me. It does help with the channel. And if you are new today, welcome to the channel. And if you like what you see, maybe you'd like to subscribe so that you'll know, and hit that notification bell so that you'll know next time I upload. So I'm popping out for the day with my little grandbabies today, which is why I'm filming so early. It's currently 7:30 in the morning. It's nice and cool in here at the minute before the sun comes over. So yeah, get this one filmed, and then I'm out for the day with my little grandbabies today and my two girls. So I will be back very soon with a new tutorial for you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.